The following feature contains scenes of animal husbandry and castration, which might not be suitable for all viewers.
And then Grandpa got shot and killed. I can always remember my poor grandma saying she was from the old country, and she lived in a tent with a camp stove to try to bake bread and keep those kids warm, you know. She had the 3 little kids. She had Dad, Aunt Em, and Aunt Lizzie, and she was 7 months pregnant with a little boy when Grandpa got killed.
Scripture talks about the Good Shepherd and tending his flock, and tending the lambs, and you know, it means something to me. I can relate to that. I kind of associate myself with that.
Truman Julian is one of the last sheep ranchers in Wyoming.
There's so many that
He starts his day with a cup of black coffee and then goes back in time to a way of life most people have forgotten. Although the fabled range found in Western movies and songs is still there, the tools used on it have changed quite a bit. Along with boxes of ammunition and a Lewis L'Amour novel, a CB radio is now almost standard equipment. Ranch trucks have become a mobile cubicle for many ranchers, with all of the headaches of working in one.
Marie, looking in my shop above the bin.
Our first chore is to count Truman's herd. Contrary to popular belief, counting sheep is anything but an insomniac pastime. How do you count thousands of animals that look exactly alike and that don't hold still? In addition to shepherds and horses, 2 kinds of dogs are also used with sheep. The smaller herd dogs and the Great Pyrenees, which are supposed to chase off predators. After counting hundreds of sheep, Truman can tell when even a few are missing. Truman's daughter Trudy has taken over many of the ranch responsibilities. Commonly, ranching is passed from generation to generation. As ranching becomes more difficult, many ranch kids are leaving home for other professions.
Okay, bye!
No, I've never been the housewife type, though. This one time I hurt my finger and I couldn't milk a cow, so this lawyer needed a secretary for a week. So I went and did that for a week. Drove me nuts. Oh, I about died. And you know, and it was really hard for me when my girls were little, just because I just love being outside. There is a lot more to ranching than just the actual manual labor. It's secretary work, it's book work, it's, you know, it's riding horse work, it's driving truck work. I just think ranching involves everything there is.
We stop for lunch at the old Julian place, where Truman's family started ranching in Wyoming over 100 years ago. The Julians tell us about what life is really like growing up on a ranch.
You know, we basically, we didn't have a lot. We were really poor.
We lived on wild meat because they had to sell everything. Very seldom we had any, you know, killed a beef or a lamb or something. They had to sell everything they could raise to keep it going.
And one year my dad got a bear, and of course we had to eat some of the bear because we couldn't throw it away. And
anytime a sheep died, we would have to, you know, it would kind of get ripe, and then we'd have to pull the wool off of it. And then we had our own blankets made, and we'd have to go along on the fence, and any wool that was left on the fence after they crawled through the fence, you'd pick all the wool off and put it in a bag, and then they'd take it to Brigham City to and make blankets. That's how we had our blankets.
The Julians didn't have electricity or running water until the late 1960s.
We had gas lanterns and kerosene lanterns. You know, you don't realize how dark it is until you actually have electricity.
Because I borrowed the down payment from my dad. I said, Dad, I want you to come out and I'll turn on every light in the house for you to see.
I would wash my hair every night. We'd have to, I had really long hair. In fact, they used to call me Cher, because that's when Cher had really long hair, you know, and I would roll it up in juice cans at night, you know, and that's how I slept on those.
But when I was a kid growing up out there, we didn't have TV. So all we had was the radio. So in the wintertime, it was one of the greatest things to get out of school on Friday. My grandpa would be waiting for me in the parking lot at the grade school. And we'd drive to the house, and I'd grab a change of clothes and we'd head to the ranch. And on those winter nights, we would sit around and play cards. And things like that, just you know, I've run into a few families that might have a game night with their family, and it's something we talk about and we still don't do as much as we should. But that was huge in my development, I think. And how many of us have that opportunity to spend time with our grandparents, playing cards around a table, around a wood stove at night, with no TV going and no telephone. Didn't have a telephone out there till I was in high school.
I just wish everybody could have that experience. There's just something about Mother Nature and being out in nature and just seeing all the little creations and all the little things that people just don't even notice.
Truman's next chore is to check in with one of his many sheep herders living high in the mountains.
Most of them are South America origin, you know. There's probably more Peruvians than anything else, a lot of Chileans. ¿Usted quiere mi viene dos partidas?
Ya han ido al otro campo ya.
¿Necesita agua?
Ya.
Este hombre piensa usted hay un movie star, él quiere tener un picture de usted.
Please, look at that puppy. Look at that puppy, Lucky. Su nombre Hueso.
¿Hueso?
Ya.
¿Hueso y qué de otros?
Es Viejo.
¿Viejo?
Ya.
¿Y este?
Anteojos.
¿Anteojos?
Cerro de Pasco, Perú.
¿Y qué hay Julians? ¿Hay buena gente o no bueno para trabajar para?
Muy bueno. Un año más. Un año más yo tengo.
Yeah, pero usted aquí para un año y medio, ¿no?
Ya.
Este primero tiempo para United States.
Ya.
Sí. Okay, I guess his first contract.
Life in a sheep camp is a lonely one. Far from towns and other people, sheep herders live a life much like herders 100 years ago, with an occasional visit from Truman as he brings water, horse feed, and the herders' grocery requests, written in broken English.
Okay.
They have no plumbing, and their only heat source is from a wood-burning stove. Until the recent introduction of solar panels, lanterns were the only light source.
Stayed in the sheep camp. My brother Dickie was with me that one year.
How old were you?
14 or 15. It was okay in the summertime. You make your little fires, you know. We played cards. We had a radio, battery radio. You had to carry your water on the horse, but now they haul it, the water bags. Carry the sheep. Cows was hollering, I can remember firing the gun out there to shut them up.
You know, this is it's a pretty rough life. My sheepers spend 365 days a year on a horse. It doesn't make any difference whether it's 40 below or 100 above. You know, they're out taking care of these sheep, and it's dangerous. I mean, last year I found a saddled horse back here, but the saddle was turned, and I thought it was one of our horses at first because we were coming up here through with the sheep. So I went and caught it, and I looked, and it wasn't our horse, so I called the neighbor, and He said, yeah, it was his horse. And I said, well, I'll go back. I don't see the guy anyplace. I'll go back. Pretty soon a dog come out, and right down over that bank there, we walked down there and we found the guy. And I don't know what had happened, whether his saddle had slipped, the horse spooked or what, but he caught his foot in the lariat and he drug him. The horse drug him. The lariat wouldn't break loose. And it drug his shirt off him and everything. And the guy was still conscious. He was still, or not conscious, he was breathing. So I run up here. I didn't have cell service. And I called into Kimmer, and they life flighted him out, but he died. He had brain damage.
On the Barlow Ranch near Gillette, Wyoming, new ways of ranching are being tried as it becomes more and more difficult for ranchers to survive.
I guess, I don't know, from the time I was born, I guess it always seemed like this is what I was supposed to do. So I don't think I ever thought about doing anything else.
Although Glenn might not have thought about doing anything else, he has definitely tried new methods to hold on to an old way of life.
I think ranchers are not stereotyped as business people, and the ranches that I know of, you know, they're what I call really big businesses. They handle lots of money during the year. You have to be a business person. I think the ones that are going to survive are the ones that are good business people and make good business decisions. That's some of it. Hello?
Some of Glenn's improvements include using a series of gates and pastures to mimic the way wildlife graze.
Tried to emulate, you know, kind of the grazing pattern in a small scale, what used to happen with the buffalo, where, you know, herds went and, you know, you got that herd impact. Basically what we're trying to do is emulate that on a smaller scale on this ranch with our fencing.
He's also gone against the common ranch practice of calving in cold weather.
You know, we used to start calving our heifers in March and our cows in April, and we would never go back to doing that way again. From personal experience, it's a lot of work. I know people were losing calves out in snowstorms, and I noticed that spring people, you know, they'd come up, hey, how do you like that late calving? Is that going pretty good for you? You know, I'd tell them, yeah, you know, our calves are all doing real good. They're still inside their mother where they belong. Or at least I think we're doing things more the way my great-grandfather did things, just because he had to, because that's the way Mother Nature forced you to. And I think to be profitable in today's world, you have to do things the least cost way. We still do a lot with horses on this ranch, because that's how cowboys do it. Or I think it's something that's maybe in our genetics. We have a four-wheeler here, and we've used it some, and we get to where we use it less and less all the time. I guess we're better with horses than we are with wrenches. I'm not a very good mechanic. We got rid of our haying equipment. We've got a tractor that we use. So if we get in, you know, a bit bad snowstorm, we've got a four-wheel drive tractor.
Despite many of the changes instituted on the Barlow Ranch, Glenn still worries about the increasing growth across the state.
I'm not going to determine what my kids do, but I hope one of them someday will have an interest in the ranch, or maybe one of their kids will or something. One thing, I don't ever intend for our ranch to be sold like what you see across the fence there. You know, I don't think that's what my ancestors had in mind when they put all this together and the hardship that they put it together.
I'm really not sure. I mean, I like Wyoming a lot, but you know, if you want to be a particle physicist, you have to have a particle accelerator. I don't think there's one in this state. But I don't know really. I like to ride my horses. That's one of the few things, I guess. And I just hunt. I like to.
He shoots his bow and he shoots archery and stuff like that. I help when we work cattle, like when we braid and AI and branding and different things like that. But mostly I just help my mom in the house and do my school and stuff so she can help work more.
Glenn's oldest daughter, Lindsay, left the ranch to work for Smith Barney in New York City. She and her fiancé elaborate on the differences between Manhattan and Gillette, Wyoming.
I mean, I met her in New York, and so everything, you know, Broadway shows and all that, we come here and she throws on the saddle of a horse and says, all right, let's go, you know, and
yeah, I don't think he recognized me the first time I brought him out
yeah,
here.
So
here, you know, you really get your space and you really feel like you can sit back and relax. And, you know, it's great to just drive down the road and, you know, see an antelope run across. And there's nowhere else that you really get that, especially on the East Coast. You know, having a pot roast and having that dinner where you sit down together.
Sunday dinner is very important.
You know, there's lots of food and everybody's there at the table and you're not worried about, you know, how many carbs are in this and that. And it's all just, you know, very natural, really good for you food. You don't find that in New York. You know, if you go to dinner with people, you know, go to someone's house, you don't have that same sense of family table, I think. Or at least, you know, the ingredients also aren't coming from the land that they live on. So
he came to New York to visit, you know, he was in his boots and his hat, and that's, you know, it's amazing. That's her dad's.
The ranch kids reflect on their family trip to New York.
When I was in New York last year, I felt trapped, and just the air felt different. There was so much stuff all crammed in there. It just didn't seem right.
In 2006, the Barlow Ranch received a Leopold Conservation Award for its innovative ranch management.
This is a fourth generation ranch and it's always been run by our family. The guy on the left is my great-grandfather, L.H. Barlow, then my father's in the center. I wish these guys could be here today. They would be very proud.
Because, you know, they've been taking commissary for 3-4 times on this company.
At the Julian place, Truman has found out one of his supply wagons is about to go over a cliff. Packing up hay and some chains, he sets out to save the wagon.
Is that it down there on the hillside? Gee.
But they had the horses tied up to it and they must have pulled back.
Is that close, huh?
Okay, get that fence in there.